John Talks, episode 5. I was MySpace famous. It's true. I was MySpace famous. So the lead in to it was that 2005 was my last year on active duty in the Army. I was a captain, and my last station was Fort Knox, Kentucky, in the recruiting brigade. And I was living in Louisville, and I was leaving to move back home to LA. Although at the time I wasn't 100% sure on it. But while I was there, my brother gave me a phone call and invited me to come move back home to LA to live with him at my dad's house and go into stand-up comedy. And so we devised a plan, and I started doing stand-up at Fort Knox in Louisville in 2005 in preparation for the move home. So I move home. I get out of the Army like April, May of 2005. I get in my car, drive all the way to LA with one stop in Vegas, where my mom was living at the time. Then go out to LA, get there, start doing stand-up, start having success. We have our own website at the time. It was thescabrothers.com. And my brother and I had been on the internet since the late 80s. We're in an early internet adoption family, early tech adopter family. And when MySpace rolled in, we were already internet veterans. So we were like, oh, this looks good. I think he found it. I forget who found it. I think he found it. And we're like, oh, this is cool. Because I remember bands were promoting themselves and it seemed like a good profile place and a good marketing tool, and it had a bunch of great stuff built in. So I was like, okay, cool, let's join. So we joined as our characters, the Ska Brothers. I played Johnny Ska, which of course it was like more of an alter ego than a full-on different character because I'm John Scalia Jr. And the story is that when I was at Louisville, and I went up to do my first open mic at the Comedy Caravan there, I was still in the Army. I was moonlighting, and I wasn't 100% sure if it was legit for me to go start doing it under my own name or whatever. So I just came up with a character name on the spot. I was like, oh yeah, Johnny Ska. That sounds cool. And then my brother followed suit with Jimmy Ska, and we became the Ska Brothers, these fictional characters who were doing stand-up. And so when we hopped on MySpace, hopped on as the characters. So I was Johnny Ska. And if you remember MySpace, your profile, you could have music that boots up when you're there. You have your top 8, later expanded like top 16 or even top 24 at the end, where your top friends you could organize that would be seen on your profile when people showed up. Then you also had a blog section, which actually was the star of your profile, where you have links to your blogs. And then you had like a message board where in the early days you could do HTML postings, and it got pretty good pretty quick. And I ended up later on tying that into my YouTube that I was doing with my brother that also was famous. We were the most famous guys on YouTube at that time too. But with the MySpace came first for us and for me, and really started with blogging, just like a lot of blogging, and then running a bunch of games through it, just like having fun with it. A lot of self-empowerment blogs. And then on my birthday in 2006, January 28, 2006, my brother figured out how to become the #1 blogger on MySpace. He had a blog called Unbuckle Your Belt and went #1. And then he figured it out, and then he showed me. And so that started a run where we were the most famous bloggers on MySpace. And I got to such a level of fame for blogging that I even had Joe Rogan at the time was reading my blogs. And I remember he left a comment on one of mine about how I would stay up late into the wee early hours of the morning and watch Fox and Friends hide just to have a good laugh at these like fascist warmongering people chopping it up, and he was laughing and put some comment about like he thought it was great. And I think at the time politically I was like a libertarian, or yeah, I think so, because I was the whole system. I was just like fed up with the whole system. Not that that's changed, but so I wasn't. I was like basically, I was essentially apolitical at that time. Like I was just sick of it all because I'd already seen too much. So the character, his MySpace was great, and then there were blog wars on MySpace because that was the Dane Cook Tila Tequila era, and at the time I hated Dane Cook. Subsequently, I think he's great. He's a party starter, but at the time I was being this character, this like real alpha character, and who took, and I still do. I think stand up, has the ability to deliver deep truth to people, and is meaningful. And at the time, because I wasn't even a trained actor, and I went method into this character for a couple years, lost myself, almost legally changed my name to the character. That's how deep I got into it. Once again, didn't like midway through the character, attracted a acting coach who moved in with me and gave me formal training, and that probably saved my mind because I was completely losing my mind going method. And then I was early internet famous, and at the time people didn't think it meant anything. Like I'd go around and be like, oh yeah, I'm famous on MySpace. People, oh, it's just internet fame, it doesn't matter. I was like, I think it matters because it was affecting me. Anyway, so at the time, within the character, and I was on this ego trip doing the character, I hated Dane Cook because I just thought he was just frivolous and not a good comic. And I just thought his material sucked, and he's just wasting the time because I didn't feel like he was saying anything. But then I remember I went to one of his shows at the Improv, and the place was just packed, and people were just like, basically, they were having sex in the bathrooms and like in the halls, and it was just a frat party gone wild. And then I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. He's just this guy starts a party wherever he goes. It doesn't even matter. Whatever. I mean, his comedy, he's funny enough. It was his party starting vibe that was really what people were into. And I was coming more from the deeply intellectual, like, oh man, the joke has to matter. It has to, trying to get to like somewhere with it, or at least, like all these, whatever. He was stupid. He was just, that guy was cracking off great parties and people were in a good mood. And that's one of the great things you can do with comedy. But at the time I hated it. So I was like, yeah, fuck Dane Cook and, whatever. So he was the king. It was him and Tequila were like the king of the, and then there's, but I forget which bands were huge. I remember from that era, cause I remember that's how that British singer, she launched on there. Can't believe I'm gapping her. She became like legit famous singer. I'll remember at some point. She's like legitimately famous, and so she launched off of MySpace. Oh gosh, she's British. I forget what her name is. that's how famous she is. But it was because it was more for bands and stuff at the time, and so, but us comedians, we always sneak in. So MySpace, it got hot, right? So it gets hot, and I still think to this day that it's the best site. It's the most complete social media site that's ever existed because it had all the pieces, all the things that it got broken up for parts, basically, because tweeting and Vines and like it had everything. It had your music selection, your profile. It gave you the ability basically to tweet, have your own message board. You could organize things how you wanted. You could program things how you wanted. You could customize it how you wanted. The price of admission to MySpace was that you had to have a personality, which is obviously a barrier to entry for a lot of people. And so when Facebook showed up, it did not have that price of admission. So Facebook was obviously going to have more mainstream success because you could just be a clone and be on Facebook. And, well, me and my brother, we tried it out like the day it came out. We're like, oh yeah, this Facebook's terrible. This is for the clones. And we both said, we're like, yeah, it's gonna be a huge success, but this is garbage, so we're not gonna do it. And so that was the only time I ever used Facebook. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna stay off of that. I've been happy with that decision. Yeah, so at the height of my MySpace fame, now here's the funny thing, right? So MySpace, it led me to be able to get a writing job for Life and Style Weekly. So while I was on MySpace writing blogs, then Life and Style Weekly, the magazine I was writing as the character, they had this section where they would post pictures of celebrities in these questionable fashion outfits on red carpets, and then they would throw these pictures out to this group of comedians that were in this writing pool, and then we'd come up with snappy one-liners like busting on their fashion. And I was getting in there, and if they chose your one-liner, they would show the picture of the celebrity and then run your one-liner with your picture in the magazine. And so I was getting in there regularly, like, 2-3 times a month, for a few months there, was at least a few months. Maybe it was like 6 months, which was fun because Life and Style Weekly is on the racks of all the Walmarts and stuff. So I could just like walk into a Walmart and flip open a magazine and see my picture, that's a trip. That's fun. And that was happening because of MySpace, really. And a lot of good things came out of MySpace. A lot of good things. It was a good vibe. And the funny part is that my total follower list or whatever it was like 5,000. But there were 5,000 real people. 5,000 like real powerful people, apparently. And my brother, who was crushing even more, at the time, he was up to like, I think he got to like maybe like 13,000, which at the time was a crazy amount. It was way more powerful. And there was OG power. It just hit different. Like there's just no getting around it. Because, put in retrospect, I had a run on TikTok where I got up to like 40,000 followers, and it was whatever. The 5K on MySpace definitely. I affected TikTok a big time. I'll do a different talk on that because I'm pretty much the one that brought the ability to do like news and satirical stuff and all that. I'm the one that introduced it into TikTok in like 2019. But the MySpace was the one that influenced the early stream of the internet, so that it set the tone for other, the creation of other sites to come. But it's funny looking back on it that, it was just like 5,000 was, friends, by the way. They didn't call them followers. They called them friends. And we did treat them like friends. Me and my brother, we would talk about that too. Like, this isn't a subservient thing. We're just making friends on here and spreading the word. And so the whole Scott Brothers run really came and went with MySpace. We even took down the YouTube later, then they reposted it, but that was a whole thing. Should have kept it up for sure. Definitely probably cost myself a fortune there. But once again, like I said, was losing my mind because I went method with no training, and don't recommend that at all. Extremely dangerous. Do not try at home. Not that many of you were thinking about it, like, oh, I wonder if I could just go method acting for no good reason for a social media site. Like, there's probably one of you is thinking it. Yeah, don't do it. It's not worth it. So it was a good run. So kind of ran the full arc of it. Got in there. We were probably like second. I was probably second generation in there, and then got famous doing the blogging. Helped. There was blog wars. That was the whole thing. The bloggers went to war with each other for a bit. I was part of that. And gosh, I'm trying to remember some of the names of the guys. Ian. What was it, like Ian the Awesome or King Ian or something? He's probably the other top guy. I think there were like, there's probably like five other really strong bloggers at the time. That Dawson dude. I remember him. Yeah, we got in a rivalry with Dawson. I forget his name. He's a comedian. He was based out of New York, and then he's been doing some LA stuff. I think he's still doing it. But yeah, we got into a thing. But I mean, it was the whole thing was stupid because I was playing a character, and they were being real people. So whatever. I mean, you, it's like having a beef with Borat or something. You know? Yeah, maybe they didn't figure out it was a character. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Johnny Scala was he's basically Vince Vega from Pulp Fiction, and then he just decided he wanted to be a comedian, and that was the idea, was that the Ska brothers were mafia hitmen who wanted to go legit in the comedy, and the boss said, okay, if you can make me laugh, then I'll let you go legit and like go be comedians. And that was the overall context, but then it just kind of turned into a alter ego ego trip, because it just started getting famous, and right after I got out of the army too. So it was pretty crazy. So I hadn't just, it was a lot of personal therapy too, because I was just getting a lot of stuff off my chest that I had dealt with in the army. And that was before I even started unpacking any sort of earlier life trauma that I had not had the time to decompress, mainly because I just went straight in the military and started doing high level stuff, and then hop out and thought it was going to be kind of a break. But then MySpace turned into a thing, and then MySpace fueled me being on Life on Style Weekly and TMZ and headlining the Hollywood Improv and doing a bunch of stuff and meeting a bunch of people. And I was ready enough to do it, but yeah, it's one of those things. When those types of things hit, ready or not, you got to do it. And I was definitely inviting it in. No doubt about that. But I didn't know it would be MySpace. I mean, you can't know until the thing happens. And then oftentimes things just appear out of nowhere that you can never count on or factor in, because they don't exist while you're thinking about it. And then they just show up. And then the synergy is great. So when it came to MySpace, I loved it. I still think it's the best website that's ever existed for social media and entertainment. I think that I thought it was ridiculous when Timberlake bought it, and then he's trying to convert it into a music site, like a music only site or whatever he was trying to do that, because that wasn't the soul. The soul of MySpace was that it was everything. It could just be your internet presence, your online presence, with personality, based on you, not based on your perceived, corporate position or job position or any of that type of stuff. It was pretty pure. And it was too bad that it went, because it was properly constructed. And for me, it was a great run. And I say that, and it's hilarious because I was on there as a character. Like, I didn't ever actually have a John Scalia Jr. MySpace profile. I was on this. I was playing my character, and I was on a alter ego trip. So, I guess take it with a grain of salt, and I'm waxing poetic about MySpace while I was on there as a character. But the site was that good. The site was that true. I guess looking back on it, it would have been cool if I'd been on there as myself. But thus is the entertainer's life. So yeah, so MySpace. So I was MySpace famous. I loved it. If you get a chance to go in a time machine, be MySpace famous, I highly recommend you do it. And thanks for listening. I hope you have a good one.